Welcome back to Edgework here on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, looking at all the games for that day, previewing them, giving our picks. Today is March 3rd, trade deadline day, so we're looking around the league. We only got 5 games here tonight, but we've seen a lot of the trades already go down. We'll likely see, hopefully at least, see some trades going down today to make for an exciting closing day on the deadline here. But Rob, today is the day. If you're on the outside looking in as a GM, you feel like you're in the mix, maybe you haven't made your move yet. Today is the day for you as an NHL GM to don't talk about it, be about it. That's what it's all about today as an NHL
I like
GM.
it, Zach. Good job, Zach.
Don't talk about it, be about it. If you are,
I think you need to
GM
shake
today.
more when you're saying that, though. You need to
Yeah.
vibrate. Don't talk
Start
about it,
going
Rob.
off the wall.
Be about it.
And you got to look blankly into the camera for 10 seconds before you say it as well. Start the video.
My teeth aren't white or fake enough either to do a good impression. So, but I am a huge loser right now. So I mean, I guess me and Gianna follow into the same category, right?
Well, you can also not talk about it and be about it as a sports bettor today. It is an interesting day to kind of follow it along with what's going on with what's going on with the trade deadline, as you might still see guys being held out of lineups. Maybe you see some of these teams make moves for other players. Guys can't get there in time, or they do, and it's a weird situation. But Rob, if you're looking to bet on trade deadline day, obviously this year has been a little bit different because we have seen moves the weeks leading up, so it's been kind of mixed into the handicapping over the last couple of weeks. But today specifically, how do you approach today evaluating teams, evaluating players who could be on the move, or players just going out and teams going out and acquiring new players on this day? How does this affect your handicapping today?
Well, it definitely affects the timing of your bets. We're lucky there's only 5 games today, because in the past we've had some deadline days where there's like 11 or 12 games and it's just absolute mass chaos. But if you're going to bet a team that's out of the mix, you probably just want to wait until after the deadline is over, especially if they have players that are on the block who are likely going to get moved, because the likelihood that you're going to get a better price later in the day is high. Vice versa, if you're betting a team that is in a playoff spot right now and they're unlikely to unload players from their roster that are going to, be of impact, you want to bet those early. So timing of the bets is much more important on a day like today, because obviously, there could be a substantial impact. Now, looking at the board, this could have players on the move. Arizona, most likely. Anaheim, likely as well. Those are probably the teams that you want to avoid betting early if you like them. I think everybody else at this point is fairly safe, but never say never. And like, honestly, it's to each their own. For me, I'll chance it and take a risk earlier on in the day and bet a team if I feel like, well, this is just a great price. Even if they do lose a player or so, I'm fine with it. But for the most part, I think this is just like a one-off day where I certainly treat it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big one here today is Arizona. I think Frank Saravelli commented on Twitter last night. They just made a deal to acquire Jacob Voracek's contract, and that gives them a lot of flexibility to possibly move on from players like Nick Schmaltz or Lawson Krause, which could have obviously a big impact on their lineup. So I think that's the big one for me that I'll be watching today.
So in the chat here, Nebraska Knows Some Stuff mentions props. I think this is a really good way to attack. If like a first liner or a second liner gets moved out from one of these bad teams, you probably will you're going to have to take an educated guess on who's going to get that ice time, but it's not going to be accounted for in the prop numbers, whether that's shots on goal overs or anytime goal scorer or whatever it may be. And this is just a general smart way to attack, like on any news in general, right? Is like, who is going to be that guy that jumps into his place? And typically the major market, the side, the total, that's going to move fairly quickly. The market will react to that, but oftentimes the prop numbers hang around for a while. So that's definitely a really good point. And if you do see like a big name player get moved out today, I think the immediate reaction should be, okay, who's going to fill that time for him on the ice tonight? Because you're probably going to be just betting the exact same number. It's not going to account for the fact that player is getting more ice time.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty good day to be able to capitalize on opportunities like that. And we've had people in the chat over the last couple of weeks, Rob, even bringing up the fact that you go to looking at goal scorers where a player jumps out and someone's going to be elevated up the lineup. And this would definitely be a good spot to keep your eye out for those and keep your eye out for that news as it goes on today. But let's get into the games. We'll break each game down, see if there's any side or total that we would play, anything we would be looking for, or how it might move. And we'll start with the Seattle-Columbus game tonight. Seattle going to Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. They're third in the Pacific right now, tied with Edmonton in points, and that Pacific is very tight. You're looking at them 4 points back of the Kings, 4 back of Vegas as well. On a 2-game win streak right now for Seattle, going in to face off against a team in Columbus who is not very good and not very good at home either. But it seems like we might be getting a little bit of a shorter price on Seattle than I kind of would have anticipated waking up and looking at this for Seattle today. Is there a reason for that here, Rob?
Well, personally, I don't think Seattle's very good, to be honest with you. I think that there's still a chance that they could drop out of this West race and miss the playoffs altogether. They're really riding that hot start to the year now, and they're regressing big time. And it's not just because their shooting percentage has gone way down. It's gone down, but that's because it was unsustainably high to start the year. They're right around league average now, and their peripheral metrics are just not that good. On top of that, I almost never want to bet Seattle in these types of price ranges where you're laying, decent amount of vig on the road, because their goaltending is awful on pretty much a nightly basis. Whether it's Grubauer or Jones, that you're very unlikely to get an elite goaltending performance. It's been a disaster for them for most of the year. So I know Columbus is mailing it in. Sean Corrali just announced out 15 minutes ago. I think he has an oblique strain, hurt himself in warmups or something like that. So, Columbus is very, very thin outside of the top line, but Seattle's just not playing well. They're not the team that some people will probably approach it in a way where they'll want to get rid of the VIG, take Seattle regulation, but that's just a derivative of the main market line, right? It's so this is a complete pass for me. There's nothing of interest here, but I've generally been fading the Kraken, and I probably will be looking to fade the Kraken down the stretch here because I just don't like their roster relative to everyone else in the West.
Yeah, I agree with what Rob said. I was actually on the Kraken yesterday in Detroit. It was definitely a numbers-based play. I think Rob's kind of hit the nail on the head there. They're definitely trending down. And yeah, the goaltending. Grubauer has been better than Jones as of late, but the goaltending's been shaky. And the Blue Jackets are as bad as they are. They've hung around in a lot of games here, so.
Yeah, Blue Jackets are playing well. They've beat Edmonton and Buffalo in the past week. It's not it's weird because people, I think, they talk a little bit too much about a team mailing it in at this point in the season, right? You got the TSN song about Bedard, yes, which by the way, I thought for those in Canada who got to see that, I thought it was really funny. I like when people do gimmicky shit like that.
I like the rap that O'Neill laid down. That was good. I'll give him props for that. That was if you had told me it was Everlast, I would have believed you.
Right. I found that funny, but people think that the tank is on for all these teams, and because the GM is trading away players, obviously that's going to make the team worse. But there's still players in the dressing room that have some self-respect and want to win games, and. Yeah. It's not just we're going out for a leisurely stroll tonight type of situation. I think Columbus is indicative of that over the course of the past week.
Yeah, I feel like people often forget these guys are paid to be there as well. And a lot of them, especially on these bottom tier teams, are fighting for jobs for the next year. You get guys on 2-way contracts or their UFAs or RFAs at the end of the year. They're fighting to play for something even personally at that point. Maybe it doesn't matter for the team, but they got to show up for themselves. So it just adds that element.
You don't see it as much in the NHL as you do in some other sports, but there's also incentive-based contracts in sports as well, right? Where if people reach a certain amount of goals, it's worth this much. Or if the team reaches a certain amount of points, it rarely happens in the NHL, relatively speaking, but just a larger, bigger scale, conversation about tanking in sports and motivation. there's still a lot for these players to play for across the major leagues.
Yeah, and on that with the NHL too, like on milestones for contracts, it's like maybe it's harder to achieve in 1, 2, 3 games, but you look at the schedule, you got 20 games down the stretch here. You could still hit some of those milestones. So from now till the end of the year, you have that opportunity. It's a little more open. I do see a question, as trade-specific question in the chat from John Moskaluk. We'll try to leave the trade-specific questions to the end of the show. We'll do all of those
Save
then.
that
So we'll
shit for
save
the
them.
Leafs Digest, man. Like,
Save any trade specific for any team, not just the Leafs. Any team, we'll save them to the end. We'll go through the games first, but let's go to the next game here. Winnipeg taking on Edmonton. Winnipeg tonight. Winnipeg is an interesting team to follow because I imagine they're going to continue to try to add here today. We did hear news, I believe it was Logan Stanley requested a trade out of Winnipeg. Not necessarily a big impact for them there, but nonetheless, that could be a guy on the move and maybe a return coming back to them, so something to look at there. And Winnipeg right now is falling a little bit. Their 4-game losing streak, 4-5-1 in their last 10. They're holding on to the second wild card spot, and the team that they're chasing right now is the Edmonton Oilers, holding on to first, 2 points up on them, tied for Seattle with points. If you're looking at Winnipeg or Edmonton here tonight, Rob, which side would you be more inclined to get behind it, with Edmonton as a shorter favorite against Winnipeg at home, but that team is kind of somewhat done their trades for this year's deadline?
So I will very likely have a bet in this game, but we have to wait on news. So these teams play again tomorrow, which means that any goaltending possibility or combination is on the table tonight, right? And Winnipeg's been struggling big time. The last 30 days, they're the third worst goals for percentage in the entire league, but they're the 8th best expected goals for percentage in the entire league. And that's because they're shooting 6.7% at even strength. So the shooting has fallen off. The team has fallen off. I think that eventually they'll get back on track here, but I do like the pickups for Edmonton. I don't think Nick Bjugstad will be in the lineup tonight for them, but I like the addition of Ekholm for them on the blue line, prioritizing a little bit of defense for a team that had none of it altogether. But let's break down the combinations here, right? Like Hellebuck and Skinner, to me, I don't mind a plus money under at 6.5 if we get Hellebuck and Skinner. I think Skinner looked great against the Leafs, and I think he's looked great for a large majority of this season. I know it's the Oilers and they're high flying, but we've seen these two teams play a low-scoring game already this year. It was when the Jets actually snapped McDavid's 17-game point streak or whatever that was late in 2022. So plus money under will be appealing to me, Hellebuck and Skinner. Hellebuck and Campbell, Winnipeg plus 140. Sign me up. I find enough, want to fade Campbell as quickly as I possibly can in most instances. Skinner and Riddick, okay, give me Edmonton in some capacity. Now, whether that's a split on money line, puck line, that's probably the way I'd play it. Riddick and Campbell, give me the over, 6.5. So it really depends on the combination here, because I think that there's a pretty large gap between the goaltenders on both sides here that I think you can advocate for a play on anything depending on how the goaltending shakes out.
Yeah, and one thing that stands out to me here is Rick Bowness needs to be fired into the fucking sun here. Nino Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, and Nikolai Ehlers on the second line. What are you doing to Nikolai Ehlers? And putting him on the second power play with Stenlund, Lowry, Schmidt, and Pionk. This guy's just he's kind of, I wouldn't say buried, but you look at where he is over the last little bit, 4% shooting percentage over his last 9 games. One of the top shot generators on the team. Not a great spot for him though. So I'm definitely, on the way off of betting on Nikolai Ehlers anytime goal props. That's for sure. At this point, unless there's a big price change, it's just not a good combination for him.
Ehlers is the guy. So I follow a lot of hockey beat writers and media, and for some reason or another, I don't know why Winnipeg. I know why. There's you have the traditionalists in hockey who are what have you done for me lately? And then you have the advanced metrics people and peripherals, and it's going to come and this and that. And we saw this a lot with Jesse Puljujarvi in Edmonton. where it's like he just needs more ice time, and there's like, oh, this guy sucks. We watch him all the time. He can't score and whatever. And
he drives play. He doesn't score. I mean,
right. That's not his thing. But like, the Leafs, for example, when they just traded away Pierre Engvall, but he would have been another example of that, where the fan base basically wanted this guy's head mounted on a stick and like paraded around town. Whereas like he's a very good transition player, and the third line's kind of suffering without him there. But Ehlers is way more talented than those guys, but he kind of gets lumped into that same group where it's just like, I don't know why he's under the microscope for every single game that the Jets play. But if I had Nikolai Ehlers, I'd be treating him as a first liner and trying to get him in as many goal scoring opportunities as possible, including power play one. And I got to agree with Andy. I think that his usage is just like super, super weird. The whole team, the usage of a lot of their players is super weird.
There's a question here from John Moskaluk, and Andy, you can start with this. John asked, will Campbell
John.
get playoff starts?
I mean, I think the way that the season is trending, Skinner's now their number one. And I think that he will, if they get to the playoffs, which isn't a given yet, but they probably will. I think Skinner will start game one. It really just depends on how that goes. I mean, everything in the playoffs is so reactionary, right? Especially like these short samples. So I could see him getting a playoff start. I don't think he will start game one for the Oilers in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, we're looking at it's such a different world in terms of how teams view their goalies. I mean, years ago, it would take a really, really, really bad goaltending performance, maybe a couple in a row, to even start to think about putting the backup in a playoff series. But now it's a lot more likely to happen these days. Teams are a lot less forgiving with their starting goaltenders, I think, than they were even 10 years ago.
I think with like Skinner too, he's not experienced, right? And you could get him into a situation where he starts game one for Edmonton, they lose, he gives up 4 goals or something like that, and then it's just like, Jack Campbell has experience in the playoffs, and he's played well, and I mean, he has played well in series against Montreal and Tampa Bay, but he actually got badly outplayed by the opposing goalie in those series as well. So I mean, I can see the narrative building for him getting a playoff start at some point. Do I think it's a good idea? Nope, I don't.
And another question regarding this game. How would you play this? Mike Bromberg asking, with how hot he has been, does it make sense to start playing the under 1.5 points with McDavid? Going to have a 1-point night at some point? John Moskaluk was pretty quick in the chat there with his answer, but I'm curious.
I mean,
Rob, your thoughts.
On the surface level, I think, just that kind of logic is mostly like a fallacy, right? I mean, it's kind of like things can't keep going that way, right? But they can. And I mean, if there's a huge increase in the odds and there's a big shift, and there might be some value created on the other side, but it's certainly not something I'd be going out on a limb for here, the way he's playing.
What would be more enjoyable, betting the McDavid under or just getting kicked repeatedly in the nuts over and over? Because this makes the game, he's so good. He is absurdly good. 5 games in a row with 2 goals is nuts, man. I can't really comment on it because everything is like a matter of price in sports, right? Yeah. And a lot of people, even those who are watching now, probably won't like what I have to say here, but sports is way more of a math problem than people realize. And if you're going to bet the under 1.5 on McDavid points, I haven't been following the market closely enough to see if this has been adjusted. McDavid's over 1.5 just flying now? What was it relative to before? McDavid in the chat, goat. Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. If there's been a huge price adjustment, then yes. I mean, you can warrant betting that, but yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Sure looks like the cheat code has been activated, just like it was in last playoffs. I mean, he's starting a little earlier this year, but I don't know. I personally think after what we saw last year, that when that guy is determined to do something, he can do it. And it definitely, I think, if you watch the Oilers all year, you wonder why he doesn't do this all the time. But I do think he has it in him. And I mean, during this stretch run here where every game is really important, I think you're going to see McDavid at his best, at kind of peak performance here over the next few weeks.
My favorite thing about the Edmonton beat writing scene and like press is how they call into question the defensive side of his game all the time. And it's like, who cares? Like if the guy scores 2 goals every game, who cares about the defensive side of his game? Like it's so absurd to me that you can take like a generational offensive talent and be like, oh, but sometimes he struggles in his own end. Guess what? The guy has the puck all the time. His line always has the puck. They're barely ever in their own end. It doesn't matter. Like they're on the ice and he's just skating circles around him, and Draisaitl are skating circles around people. It's like, I'll never get it, man. Like the way some of these cities treat like their star players is so absurd. It's like you have the best player by a mile in the league. Forget about his defensive effort. Like it does not matter.
Yeah, there is a large amount of criticism surrounding his defense, but 2 points a game, being the third player in a century to score 2 goals in 5 consecutive games. Like at some point, you're gonna be okay. You're just gonna accept that for what it is. But even David or Daniel H in the chat, McDavid goal is gonna be minus 200 tonight. Yeah, trending that way. A game that we do have a goal scorer in here, Rob. You're looking at a game where potentially the line is just out of reach in Carolina, Arizona. Carolina first in the Metro. Very good team so far this year. Probably going to still tinker here today on deadline day, make some moves. Maybe not the biggest ones, but some moves. And Arizona, we finally see the Chychrun saga come to an end. He finally gets traded and leaves Arizona. Bukestad out. You see them acquire some salary on different players, so they still could be in a situation where they could move on from other guys. We still might see them trade people away, but you're not interested in a side or a total necessarily in this one, Rob. You're looking at a goal scorer. Who is that?
Yeah, so for just really quickly, I have to like the Chychrun trade. They waited a year to trade this guy for like some hockey tape and a box of condoms, basically. Like I don't know what they thought they were going to get in return, but good trade by Ottawa for tonight's game. Jordan Martinook. Jordan Martinook is not a goal scorer. He's never going to be a goal scorer. He has 11 goals this season. It is by far and away his best offensive season in years. He plays on the third line with Jordan Staal and Jesper Fast for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I typically look at people who are vastly underperforming their relative to their expected goals. And Martinook, in a lot of cases, is going to do that because he's not the greatest shooter. However, he is generating a lot of high danger scoring chances recently and even medium danger scoring chances. And I like this as a dart. FanDuel's offering plus 370 on Martinook to score, but I'm only going to bet that for about a quarter unit. So 0.25 units. If you're $100 better, bet $25. I'm also going to take a super long shot here on Jordan Martinook to score the last goal of this game at 20-1 at DraftKings. Last goal of the game. So the reason why I like this is Carolina, Arizona. You see what the betting line is on this game with Carolina minus 333. The likelihood that this game gets out of hand at some point is high. And typically speaking, that's when the coaches like to work in their third and fourth lines. So I do think that Martinook's going to get a lot of ice time later in this game. He typically averages like 14 minutes of ice time. I think for this game in specific, it will be a little bit higher because of the quality of competition that they're facing. Who knows if the Coyotes move out another player today as well? It makes it even weaker. But normally I would never take this if this was a game against like another Eastern Conference team, but really playing down to the level of Arizona and the potential that Martinook's on the ice a lot in the third period here, I think it's worth a bet. So small bets, quarter unit on any time goal, and we'll go a tenth of the unit, 1 unit or 0.1 units to win 2 on the 20-1 last goal scorer of the game.
It's going to be hilarious because he's going to score in the third period, and then we're all going to sweat it out together watching this go down. But it's going to be some stupid goal by someone on Arizona that ends up happening just for no reason at the end of the game or something. And then we're going to get everyone in the chat here today tweeting at us about what happened and how close we were. But hopefully we at least get to sweat it out. That would be enjoyable.
Yes. Or, if he's on the ice, Carolina up 3-2, Arizona net pulled, that would be another great scenario as well, right?
Yes. And Jordan Moselsayer saying Jesse Puljujarvi revenge time.
He doesn't have a visa. I don't think he can play yet. I'm pretty sure he can't play yet. I don't think they've worked out his work visa at this point.
Fair enough. I didn't even know that. Honestly, didn't realize that hadn't happened yet. But that is another thing too. Guys just can't even get to teams yet, based on some of the work restrictions that they have going on. But we'll lock those plays in. Another game tonight. Move on. We got 2 more games left. New Jersey going to Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. New Jersey just continues to roll. 3-game win streak here. They're second in the Metro and closing the gap on Carolina. A point back of them. Open the gap up on the Rangers. 6 up on them. And this Vegas team, first in the Pacific right now, but not comfortably at all. They're tied with the Kings. They have 2 games in hand, 4 points up on Seattle, same number of games played. And this Vegas team, 19-13-1 at home, going against a New Jersey team who is 22-4-3 on the road. Just incredible on the road. In this game tonight, though, between the two teams, it's basically a coin flip. Andy, would you say that these prices are about accurate for where they should be between Vegas and New Jersey tonight?
Yeah, I think Rob mentioned that he was hoping to get a good price on the Devils here, and I was in the same boat. But yeah, I think this is priced where it should be at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. Like, we're beating a dead horse here with talking about the Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference, but I do think that that's a thing. Like, Vegas is a good team. The Devils are a great team, and they've really, listen, I don't know what you think about this, Andy, but like the road record for New Jersey this year, they've lost 4 games out of 29 in regulation away from home. It's almost unheard of. And I just look up and down these, like, to me, the Devils have too much speed for the Knights. They're better, deeper at forward, better and deeper at defense, better in net as well. I really wanted a bargain here, but it looks like the market has kind of like caught up to this altogether. Tough game for me. I make the Devils somewhere in the minus 105 range, but they're just playing like we had that lull for the Devils like mid-season where they got off to that hot start, and then who was it that said they would miss the playoffs and caught
Keith
a bunch
Yandel.
of flack? Keith Yandel.
Me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. I said that before they got off to a hot start.
right. That was before the season. And then like they're just flying again. And this is without Timo Meier, who might not play again tonight because he's dealing with an injury, but we're waiting for his debut. Once they insert him into the lineup, it's just they're light years ahead of Vegas, in my opinion. So obviously we got to factor in this home ice, and that's where the price is right now. But it would be a Devils or nothing for me. I like taking these big Eastern Conference teams against the Western Conference teams.
You know what? Give me a small quarter unit play. I'll go with Rob here on an Eric Haula anytime goal. Wow. Gonna get a little wild here.
It's actually hilarious you say this because he was the other guy that I was looking at.
Nice. I'm glad. Yes. I'm happy about that. I mean, he's shooting the puck a lot. Obviously, he's on the third line, but he does get second power play time. But he's shooting just like less than 4%, 3.57% over his last 11 games. And this is a guy that typically scores on, upwards of 11% of his shots in his career. So, I mean, he's snake bitten right now, and I think the Devils will be rolling a lot of. Vegas doesn't take a whole lot of penalties. A lot of their games are played more at even strength, and I think that's what we'll see here tonight versus New Jersey. So,
plus he reminds you a lot of yourself, Andy, just shooting blanks all the time. Eric Haula lately.
Vasectomy, man. You gotta get with it.
I'm
just joking. Comment, I didn't go there yet.
I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you did, man.
I don't want to procreate anymore.
Yeah. That's not what I was going with it, but sure. Not worried about the Vegas. The Vegas flu thing is done, right? At this point, I think we can say that was like a thing for the first year of the season where everyone was like excited to go to Vegas. Now everybody makes the trips all the time. I don't think it's a thing anymore.
Yeah, now it's more of a thing for the home team.
Yeah.
Living the strain of living in Las Vegas full time has finally taken its effect on the players.
All right, final game of the night. This is the battle for Bedard. This game encapsulates the song that was played on TSN last night. So this will be the theme of this one. As the Habs go to take on the Anaheim Ducks. The Habs are 6-4 in their last 10. Anaheim 3-5-2 in their last 10. Both teams might be sellers here today, and not just in terms of they're bad teams, but they actually could potentially have a bunch of pieces on the move. So interesting one to watch out for there. But Rob, you have a side that you're looking at, and who would that be between the Habs and the Ducks tonight?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think that the Anaheim is more likely to deal someone over the course of the day. It's probably John Klingberg if somebody moves out. There's been like some rumors around him. Not that that's going to have like a drastic impact. Klingberg has not been good. But, I mean, anytime I see like that plus symbol next to the team that's playing the Anaheim Ducks, it's like auto fire at this point for me. And I know Anaheim's played better in the sense that they've won some more games recently. But since the beginning of February, they have an expected goals rate of 37.5%. It's the worst in the league by a mile. And per 60 minutes, they've gotten outshot by almost 18 shots. Like Montreal is bad, but they get outshot by 4.9 shots per 60 minutes. It's nowhere close to 18. The Corsi numbers are even worse. Anaheim is minus 31 Corsi in the last month per 60 minutes. It's almost impossible to be that bad where the other team is just constantly directing pucks at your net over and over and over, and you can't do anything about it. I think Montreal's a lot better than Anaheim. It's another East-West matchup. The offense has been clicking for Montreal lately as well. They've scored 4 or more goals in 5 of their last 10 games. I'm a little bit concerned about Sam Montembeault, who's kind of fallen off here lately. He had a very, very hot start to the year, but Anaheim's goaltending also is like, you might even get a Lucas Dostal start tonight. That's very possible for them as well. So I think a lot of upside with betting the Habs here. I would make them the favorites in this game. I think Anaheim is just like historically bad team. Like they suck. And anytime you get these types of price ranges, sign me up with the Habs tonight. I'm cheering for Montreal.
Yeah, I think obviously this spot against the Ducks bleed shots. I think this is not a bad spot to go and back Josh Anderson over shots 2.5 minus 125. I'm not sure what the best price available is, but that's what DraftKings has here. What I have up. He's hit this prop. He's had 3 or more shots in 9 of his last 12 games. His ice time around 20 minutes or more the last few games. It's a lot more than he's accustomed to playing. So I think this is a good spot for him. He's a guy. He's been a leader for this Canadiens team. Who's obviously been whittled down due to injury, but he's one of the kind of constants on that team. And I think you can see him getting quite a few shots tonight.
The one thing with Josh Anderson is he doesn't just talk about it. He bees about it.
He bees about it.
Bees about it.
Bees about it. Bees about it, guys. That's
over 3.5. That's now that's like, so I haven't looked at over 3.5 as far as a true price, but I mean off the top of my head, tonight seems like a great night to bet over 3.5 shots at plus 200 on Anderson for sure.
Agreed. If you like the over 2.5 in this game because of like the tail on what can happen with the Ducks, where there's just games where they give up like 58 shots and stuff like that. Then the 3.5 I think would be a very good bet as well.
Yeah.
Aaron Lappin saying Anderson anytime goal scorer. Is this something you guys would take a look at here? Plus 230 for Josh Anderson.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like it's something I'd consider for sure. Not the greatest price in the world, but the matchup. Let's just you got to hope that John Gibson, or you said that we might see Dostal tonight.
I'm just speculating on that, but it's Gibson or Dostal tonight. Yeah.
Like has Gibson, and I know Gibson hasn't been good, but like I was wondering over the last couple of weeks, like when he's putting together all these 50+ save performances, like is he generating any trade interest right now? Like you know what I mean? Like GMs are kind of weird. You'd think that like, oh, look at this. They get a little bit excited about that. Maybe John Gibson's back. Now's the time to get him at a reduced price or whatever. I was kind of wondering about that.
Toronto Sports Radio, if you listen to Overdrive, they bring up John Gibson to the Leafs about every day. That's the one piece that the Leafs need. John, like, to
every day for the last 5 years, probably.
Like
Yes.
what people think John Gibson is versus what he actually is. Like it's I don't understand where that came from. I mean, obviously he started, when he was younger, came into the league with a lot of promise. He's just never lived up to that potential, period. And I mean, I think there are still teams that are hoping that they get Gibson, even if it's like as an insurance policy, which I don't understand altogether.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to ask you this one. It was fired in the chat here. We always appreciate people sending their bets and the things they're looking at in the chat. Jordan Mosel saying, Dennis Gurionov, anytime goal scorer plus 370, but the reason I had to bring it up is because of how he closed this. Thank me later.
Love the confidence
on Dennis Gurionov, anytime goal scorer plus 370. I had to shout it out.
I mean, it's a great spot for him on the top line. But yeah,
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, that's a really good price relative to the other books. But if you're going to end your comment with "thank me later," you also got to be open for like someone to just like, you got to get reamed out if it loses, right? And I don't know if you put like I guess it works. It works here. And
I mean, he generates a lot of shots and whatnot, but yeah, it's a good spot for him tonight. I mean, if you're gonna attack it, if you have this theory that he can perform well in this spot, I mean, you go right at it. You don't wait for it because, if it proves to be true, it's gonna get bet into shape over the next several games, right? So, I mean, yeah, go for it and thank yourself later.
Order a Big Mac after it wins, something like that.
The chicken Big Mac. Did you guys see that? They're bringing a chicken Big Mac.
Apparently, they worked on it for 2 years.
2 years.
Fine-tuning it for 2 years. McDonald's is like the worst. I think it's the worst, absolutely the worst fast food out there. Maybe not the worst, but as far as like the reputation versus reality, like it's not even close.
Well, I mean, I should have told you this beforehand, but we're working on a McDonald's sponsorship, so we're gonna have to edit this out.
Yeah.
No, we're actually not. I don't know. I don't mind McDonald's. Like, obviously, the quality of the
McGriddle's good.
The McGriddle?
Yes.
I haven't had McDonald's breakfast in a long time, man.
It's the only thing I get.
McDonald's breakfast right now. I'm a big Big Mac guy. I'm a huge Big Mac guy.
Yeah.
Chicken Big Mac. I don't know how you can work on that for 2 years. It's like, what part of the chicken do we grind up here and put? Like, do we use the beak? Do we use the feet? Like, I mean, I don't know how you engineer that for 2 years. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I like
Sounds
McDonald's.
good though.
Especially you're hungover or you're drinking. It's perfect. It's you mix that in there and you're good to go.
What does that say about it though, right? Like, I mean, the only time it's good is when you feel like shit.
Yeah,
right?
I love McDonald's when I'm stoned out of my mind. They just blaze the cannon, like it's my first go-to spot. Yeah, like it's true. Andy brings up a good point. If that's the reasoning there, it's like when you're at your worst, McDonald's is what you need.
That is fair. Andy, before you joined for us to start the show today, I was telling Rob that last night on the stream, everyone was so fired up about Luke Schenn coming to Toronto that they basically went on for about half an hour trying to find different iterations of words with the word Schenn in it, and I had to deal with that. And this is one of the ones that I had to deal with. Leafs digestion. That was one that was going on. So, but I did say we would leave it to the end, and we will answer this question here. John Moskaluk asked, if Dubas is to make a move today, what's the likelihood he's targeting Kroos to round out that third line? I said we would answer it. Rob, I'll start with you, especially as a Leafs fan. Your thoughts on Kroos to round out third line and that possibility?
I don't know that it's super likely. The thing is, I will say with the trades that Dubas has made, a lot of them just come out of left field where there hasn't been like a rumor or any attachment or anything out there. I'm not a huge fan of what the Leafs are doing with their bottom six right now. So I did not like the moving out Pierre Engvall. And I know why, like they did. Leafs fans cannot stand a guy that's 6'6" and just doesn't throw his body around. He makes a few mistakes in his own end, but he was a very, very good transition player. Like he could take the puck from blue line to blue line without issue. And right now they're utilizing, I mean, they switched it up last night. They put Ryan O'Reilly in the third line center role, but they were previously using David Kampf in that role. And Kampf is like where offense goes to die. and he just cannot be utilized there anymore. They need to drop him to fourth line altogether. So I don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, I don't think the Leafs are done. I actually do think that they'll try to make like another depth move today. If it's for a defenseman, I'll just jump off the second floor of my house right now. I don't understand why they have a million defensemen at this point, and like that doesn't make any sense to me. But I do think that they need somebody that can, like, all these guys that they've added. Lafferty, great player, speed, good forechecker. They're missing the transition play right now. A guy that can pick up the puck in their own end and just move it and skate it to the other blue line quickly. And frankly, that's the type of player I think that they need and that they should be looking for.
Yeah. I would be on the same page.
If you didn't jump off your house after Orlov scored his 7th point in 3 games, or the Bruins added Bertuzzi, or signed Pasternak to a 8-year contract, if that didn't make you jump off your house, I don't think that this is going to either.
You know what though? Like, it sucks. Obviously, it sucks. I hate the Bruins. It sucks when they add good players. It's like Hathaway, I thought was a good addition.
I manifested the Bertuzzi thing. I was talking to my dad about this last week. Like, he would be the perfect ad for us, right? Like, I actually
love this, by the way.
Yeah, totally. Dude had 2 goals. He's got 4 now, I think. He's just vibing right now. You gotta love it.
But the thing is, and we know this, bullshit happens in the playoffs.
I know. Small sample.
I think back to 2 years ago, Colorado, who I thought was like an absolute powerhouse. They were so good in the regular season. Like, they had like a 61% expected goals in the regular season. They won the first 2 games against Vegas and then like completely just couldn't get anything go. Mark Stone took over that series. Like, it was nuts. And like, it can happen. Boston is better than everyone else. Like, no one's questioning that. But you put yourself in a 7-game series, the variance of the sport, it's not like I think they're going to completely dominate like a Carolina or a Toronto if they face a team like that, or even a New Jersey. So, I mean,
some of these Stanley Cup odds that I see, like some of these projected Cup odds that I see for Boston, like, I'm like, what? Like 40%? Like, what the? No. That's insane.
It's the variance in the playoffs is way too high to ever have a team at that price level, especially considering the path for them in the East.
Well, like, consider this, like Tampa Bay, when they were the best team in the Eastern Conference in 2019-20, when they got swept by the Blue Jackets. They got swept, right? I can't remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got swept.
Yeah, so that year, I remember, a lot of models and whatnot had the Lightning upwards of 25%. And I would argue that the gap between the Lightning and all the other teams that year, especially even in the East, was so much bigger or so much bigger than the gap between Boston and Toronto and Tampa Bay, and these teams that the Bruins are going to have to contend with. Yep. So, I don't quite understand how the Bruins are viewed as such a big favorite. I mean, yeah, they're the favorite. Yeah, they'll win probably more than anybody else, but yeah, 35, 40%, just I can't get behind that.
Well, I mean, if we're looking at like the team tables for this year and we look at the Bruins in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5, they're 6th in the league at 54.4%. Their goals for percentage is much higher than that, but a lot of this is built off goaltending, right?
Yeah, Ullmark's been amazing.
Exactly, right? And all it takes, like, Ullmark is not like a proven playoff pedigree or anything, and they have a good backup in Swayman, so like they're well-rounded and they're deep where they can adjust for that. But a lot of what they've done this year has been built off the backs of goaltending, very good goaltending, and that can go away like this. It can
totally, and that's why I do think the Bruins are smart for doing what they're doing right now. They're not resting on what they have. They're adding. They're that blue line right now is easily the best blue line that I've ever seen in Boston in my entire lifetime. Yep. And top to bottom, I don't think you've seen a better forward group than maybe 2011, 2010. They were pretty good forward groups, but this is arguably the best one they've had at this point.
Agreed.
All right, well, here are all the picks for today. If you do want to see them, you can head over to the BetStamp app in iOS and Android. You will see all the picks that are being given out. You can find us in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. Today we're looking at Jordan Martinook anytime goal for a quarter unit. Jordan Martinook last goal plus 2,000 for 1/10 of a unit. Eric Holla anytime goal plus 410. Josh Anderson over 2.5 shots on goal minus 118 as well. You can head over, as it was mentioned in the chat, and look at Josh Anderson over 3.5 plus 200, but make sure you get the best price on that. And then finally, the Montreal Canadiens money line plus 106. If you enjoyed the content today, please make sure to subscribe to the Edgework HQ YouTube channel as well as liking this video. And if you're looking for some trade deadline coverage from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, maybe even a little bit beyond that, I will be live on the Hammer HQ YouTube channel doing a trade deadline watch along, breaking down everything as it happens, reacting to different markets, and we will have different people from the Edgework show.
Is that the sloth from Ice Age? Was that the sloth from Ice Age? Oh no, it's Lou Lamoriello. Sorry.
Well, nothing's as good for me as this one.
Creed. I love that his real name is Creed. That's the best part about that guy.
Yeah, but if you're looking for trade deadline coverage, make sure to head over to the Hammer HQ. We'll be live at 2 p.m. breaking all of that down and just hanging out, not too serious.
My kid is he's home. Well, actually, they don't have school today, but he's home sick, so he couldn't go to daycare. But I was thinking if I could join the crew today, I don't think I will be able to, but I could just, whenever a trade breaks.
He rings the bell.
Right? Like that would be fun. I mean, that would make me feel useful.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get
we'll see.
A gimmick. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Rob, one last question for you. What's the line? Tortellini versus Yanni.
Well, I mean, they're both coin flippers, so it'd be pretty even. It'd be a pick 'em, I would say. But I will say Tortellini doesn't just talk about it; he bees about it as well. So it's I mean, I don't know that Johnny would lower himself to going up against the tortoise, but if we want to facilitate that, I'd be happy to do that.
I forgot we do owe a response to all cock no balls there on Twitter. Austin he asked us to give our thoughts on Central Division futures. So I thought we should maybe touch on that before we get off here. I mean, looks like Colorado's division to win at this point, and the odds have definitely shifted big. I mean, when Zach and I talked about this a few weeks ago around the All-Star break, the Stars were minus 145. The Jets were plus 450 or plus 550 or something like that, I think. Yeah, plus 550. And Colorado was around plus 300. So we've seen a big shift, and I mean, totally justified, right? The Avalanche looked like they could be a wagon the rest of the way. The Jets are struggling. The Stars are struggling. I mean, I don't have a good read. I don't have any team that I would consider backing at this point to win the division. I mean, I think it looks pretty right to me. What do you think, Rob?
I mean, I like the 9-1 on the Wild at FanDuel. Now that's an off-market price, but I talked about this with Minnesota, I think last Friday's show, about how their shooting percentage is just like unsustainably low, incredibly, insanely low. And they don't have a ton of offense, but if they ride Gustafsson is good, man. Like every time I watch him, I get more and more impressed. And I think Colorado will ultimately win the division personally, but where they're priced and Dallas is priced, I think is fine. Like, it's not egregious anyway. If I could find something at, like, let's say 15-2 plus 750 or higher on Minnesota, that's where I would be looking right now.
Yeah, and the Wild have like they've typically been a team that is among the top shooting percentages in the NHL for the last several years. So I'm with you on that as far as, maybe being a team that could revert back to that for sure.
We got a prop posted in the chat here. I had a little giggle about David Colesver's Yanni real teeth prop needed.
Listen,
maybe we can get a book to fire those out.
I have terrible teeth, so I'm in no way to comment. Like, I can't comment on this or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that guy filmed that video. Like, the the 50K in cash of just like flopping
It was
around.
350, Rob. It was probably 350K. That's what he said.
Just flopping around and then coming like responding to me on Twitter saying like, I'm not looking for like attention like abroad like you or what. It's like, buddy, you just posted a video of you throwing around 50K. Like, who's looking for attention?
Attach my bot to you. I'm gonna.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
That was the best. Like what?
Mission accomplished, John.
So you're gonna use other people's bets to win this handicapping con? Is that what you actually admitted that? Like you could have done it. You could have just done that, or planned on doing that, I guess, and not said anything about it and taken the credit for yourself if it did well.
Guy had 1 hour to craft a response, and that's what he came up with. Like just
brilliant.
I did. Oh my god!
Anyways. Brilliant stuff.
Yep.
Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Greatly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed yet, please hit subscribe. If you missed any of it, you want to listen back to it again, you can find us on all podcasting platforms, but hit subscribe, like this stream. That is greatly appreciated. We look forward to seeing everyone at 2 p.m. for the trade deadline watch along. Andy, Rob, I can tell you guys, this is what my night will look like after the live stream, after we wrap all that up. At some point tonight and tomorrow, McDonald's will be in the rotation, and I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. Good luck with your bets tonight, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of trade deadline. We'll see you guys back on Monday.